That one fact. We just say the presentation, most people present, go on to the next item. Election of school board officers. We're going to declare all seats vacancy at this time, and, we need a nomination.
I nominate, the president, Mr. O.T.
I'll second that.
Close nomination, Mr. President.
O.T.
Like to request closing nomination.
Close, Mr. O.T., you can take it out, or you want me to do the whole thing? Election of the vice president is open, office. of the
I
vice
nominate, Mr. Mark Eager.
I'll second that. Well, Mr. Moss, let's close the nomination.
Close the nomination.
Close the nomination. Moss, you vice president.
Thank you.
The next office, finance and insurance committee chairman.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Mike Lee.
Nomination.
Mr. President, you actually get to appoint committee chair.
I was wondering, I thought.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he threw it to me, I went ahead and kept going.
Right, yeah, and you take the gavel on it.
I'd like to appoint on the education, committee, Mrs. Johnson, who is not here, but, I would like to appoint her. Any other nomination? Anybody? All right, on maintenance committee, I'd like to appoint Mr. Stepp. And on transportation, I'd like to appoint Mr. Fusley. That concludes the appointment. No, I can stay here, thank you. All right, next item of business,
I'll go about this.
okay, announcements and acclamation. And announcements, acclamation.
Well, at the next meeting, I'm gonna have either Ms. Broussard or Mr. Roberts, give you an end of year report on sales taxes, but I just wanted to report that, we had a very good year on sales taxes, higher than we've had, ever, actually. So our sales tax fund is very strong. So, that's something very positive to report. And I believe that's it.
Next, Southern Scripps.
Okay, our Southern Scripps Employee of the Month is Ms. Shanivia Washington, principal at Brokerage Junior High. I don't see her in the room. She had a family emergency today. She had to leave school, so she was going to try and come back. I guess that she just wasn't able to make it back. But I'll say a few words about her, even though she's not here. Maybe she can watch it on the video, or next month I can represent it to you. But last year in November, the principal at Brokerage Junior High decided to retire. So, we had such a shortage of teachers. What I was trying to do last year was put people in interim positions and not disrupt the schools too much. So I pulled, like Ms. Washington was at the city primary, so I pulled her in to be the principal at Brokerage Junior High, and we just didn't fill that position. Okay, so we did that, because there's always a domino effect. You hire a principal, it's usually an assistant, so then you got to fill that position, which pulls somebody out of the classroom. So with the shortages, I chose to go that way, and we finished the year, got things done. Ms. Washington stepped into a very difficult situation. She really pondered whether or not she was going to apply for the job permanently. So she ended up applying. She took over this year, and by the end of the summer, all but 4 of her teachers had left and gone to Lafayette or other places. So she had to hire almost an entire new staff. And a lot of them, just like everybody around us, are hiring non-certified people. So she has had to train people, work really hard to keep the school up and running. And she's done a great job. Okay? Given the situation she stepped into, she's done a wonderful job. So the main reason I wanted to recognize her tonight was because of her persistence. It takes somebody with a lot of character, a lot of intestinal fortitude, a lot of strength, moral character, to stick with it through thick and thin and through those difficult times. So I just wanted the board to recognize the difficulties she's had and how she's stuck with it, and remained loyal to the district. So with her not being here, we'll represent it at another time. But that was the reason I nominated her, because she stepped into a really tough spot and she stuck with it, where other people probably would have quit. Thank you.
Next, any additions or deletions to the agenda item?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, I have one addition I'm requesting. We have an update to pupil progression. The state's requiring us to put a policy in place for students who do not make a passing score on LEAP. I handed that policy out before.
Okay, I would suggest put that as 5D.
We gotta
We
make a
need,
motion.
we need a motion to put it at 5D.
I make a motion that we, accept the pupil progression plan addendum.
Need a second, or you need a motion to add?
Add, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Vote on it. Pass. All right. That'll be 5D. Any items from the consent agenda to be removed?
Move to accept all consent agenda items.
Motion to accept consent agenda items, so we have a second?
Second.
Second from, Mr. Fugely. Anything else? Nope. Okay, let's vote. Motion passes. Item 3, there are no items pulled from the consent agenda. So let's go to 4, Finance Committee recommendations.
I'll make a motion that we accept the finance recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept Finance Committee recommendations by Mr. Fulci and Mr. Clay. Let's vote. All right, motion passes. 5, new business. A, receive audit report from Mr. Champagne and Company for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 22. Mr. Champagne?
Thank you. I'm here to present your annual audit report for your fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. I believe we each given a copy of the report prior to the meeting. Before we look at those, I believe you each also should have gotten a handout.
They
All right.
were included in the
They were-
packet.
Okay, they're included in the packet. It's about 10 pages, and it should be loose. It's not going to be in one of the bound reports. It's going to be separate. And the first page says financial report, January Parish School Board financial report. And in the lower right-hand corner, I'm sorry,
We label them with our agenda numbers, it should be 5A, correct?
5A. And your first page in the lower right-hand corner should say 1A. Everybody good? Okay, before we even look at that, let me give y'all the big picture of last year's audit. The most important thing is that you got what's called an unmodified or clean audit opinion. That's the most important thing I have to tell you today. So congratulations on that. The audit went very well. We got full cooperation from your administration and your staff. We received information timely. A big item I want to point out is that we posted no audit adjusting entries. What that means is the financial records that we got from you are the financial records that are presented here. Very few of our clients are able to produce financial statements that do not require audit adjusting journal entries. We look at a whole lot of information while we're here. There were some audit adjustments that we were able to pass on because of materiality amounts. But I want to point that out to you. And some of you didn't mean a whole lot, but from an auditor standpoint, it's very meaningful. Because what it means is the financial information you're looking at throughout the year is substantially accurate. And that's good. It means you can rely on what you're seeing. The school board also, one other item to point out before we look at the information is that you had a favorable year financially this year, which is good as well. Okay, let's open up the little package. If you turn to page 1, at the top of the page, it'll say independent auditors report. And if you look at the second paragraph, it is highlighted in our opinion. That's our opinion paragraph. That's on the entire audit report. And that's what's known as an unmodified, or in layman term, clean audit opinion. If you turn the page a couple of times, in the middle of the page at the bottom, you should be on page 89. I always try to go over this with clients. If you notice at the top of the page, it's called Summary of Auditor's Results. It's numbered 1 through 9 for part 1. The first item mentions again unmodified opinion, which I've mentioned a couple of times. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, which is favorable. There was material non-compliance was not disclosed, which is favorable. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control were disclosed. An unmodified opinion was issued on compliance with major programs. Major programs has to do with your federal funding that you receive, which has increased, and I'm going to touch upon that a little bit later. The federal funding has gone up quite a bit in the last 2 years. The audit disclosed no audit findings required to be disclosed by federal guidelines for federal major programs. We identify what the major programs were and the threshold for testing those. And item 9, we say that you did qualify as a low-risk auditee. That's based on a number of factors, including the fact that last year you had no findings. Roman numeral 2 at the bottom of the page says there are no findings presented this year. That's favorable. Turn the page, you'll be on page 90. The first item at the top says that there are no findings. Again, this has to do with your federal funds. The management letter item, which is a repeat item that began in fiscal year June 16, having to do with misappropriation of funds. We are required to give you an update on that each year, which we have done. Unfortunately, the matter has not been resolved yet. Everything's resolved except the collection by the school board. The good news is that this year you made substantial progress compared to the last few years. It seems like you are now on track to continue collecting monthly, or there will be repercussions to the person who did this. So that's favorable for the school board. Turn the page and you should be on page 7. Pages 7 and 8 are the two first financial statements we'll look at. Page 7 is all funds, all assets, all liabilities of the school board as of June 30, 2022, which is the last day of your fiscal year. If you notice off to the right, we dropped in some numbers. This document comes right out your audit report, but off to the right, we put in numbers from June 21, so you can see how you compare. Total assets were 211 million last year, this year 209. Total liabilities 328 last year, this year 261. And down at the bottom, your net position, which is the equivalent of your retained earnings or your fund balance, if you will, for the government-wide financial statements. That number was a negative 88 last year. It improved to negative 72. So an improvement of right at $15 million this year, which is pretty substantial. If you turn the page, you'll be on page 8. And if you look at the third number from the bottom, you see 14,903,000. That's the 15 million I just referred to. That's how the change occurred last year. And finally, we'll look at 2 more financial statements. If you turn, you'll be on page 10. This is your governmental funds. We always pay special attention to your general fund. On the left-hand side is your general fund, and off to the left of that, we dropped in some June 21 numbers. You can see your total assets are 45.6 million, last year 44.5. Your liabilities are right in line each year, 9.9 million, and your fund balance improved from 34.6 to 35.6 million dollars, so an improvement of $1 million in your general fund. I put a little note at the bottom. We've been mentioning this to you for a very long time. We always suggest that your fund balance in your general fund be healthy enough to cover 3 to 4 months of expenditures. Looking at your fund balance, you currently have about 6 months of expenditures ahead of you. So that's a nice, comfortable amount. Turn the page again. We'll be on page 12. This is the revenues and expenditures. And again, we'll look at off to the right. You can see well, first on the left is your general fund. And if you look at the third number from the bottom, you'll see the $1 million I mentioned earlier, which is the improvement over last year. Off to the right, your total governmental funds. Look at the total revenues. That first subtotal is $103,800,000. That number is about 20% more than it was 2 years ago. So the activity within the school board has increased a lot. 20% in 2 years is a lot. So
Question.
Does that include kids stuff?
That, in-
That's everything. That's
yeah,
every ESSA
yes,
fund,
that's all you got in
ESSA
that fund,
fund,
yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So yes, there's reasons, but it's,
Yeah.
but my point is that your operations have increased a lot. So you just need to be aware of that. And of that number, your federal funding has increased quite a bit as well. Your federal funding in the last 2 years has gone up a lot. Your federal funding now, this year, made up about 25% of your total revenues. That's substantial. So I just point out those things, see this differences than what you've seen in the past. A lot of increase, and a lot of increase particularly in the federal fund area. Any questions? If not, we'll take a look at the graphs, which I think you have a copy of those as well. They're also up on the wall. Similar to prior years, we have 3 graphs to show you. The first is revenue by type. And you can see that your non-program grants equates to about $48 million or 46.5% of your total budget. That is where the MFP funds are included. And you can see the other areas, the program, which are dedicated funds for specific programs, and taxes. If you turn once, we'll be on the expenditures by activity. Off to the left is the instruction. This is the teachers. Off to the right is the other support, which includes various things, school, transportation, lunch, etc. All the other costs that it takes to educate the children. And finally, you have your interest down at the bottom of 4.2%. And then the final graph is your fund balance, which we always show several years of that for you. And we break it down into 3 areas. The blue part is your unreserved and unassigned. Your green portion is that which is committed. And your red is reserved or assigned. So the blue portion is what you want to focus on. That's what you basically have that's free and clear to spend as you wish. Okay, any questions about that? We're good? Okay. Thank you all very much. We appreciate working with y'all. And if y'all need anything, please call us. We're there year round.
I do have a question.
Yes,
For Casey.
yes.
Casey, just recently, mutual funds, no, this is mutual, have gone up in interest rates, like the money that we have in savings and stuff like that. Are we looking into the different banks as far as see if the interest rates are increasing on the dollars that we have?
We have it, most of our money is with an investment firm that manages that for us and make sure that it's
Okay,
placed
so-
in things that are allowable per policy and per, government funds.
Gotcha.
So they do that for us, but we have seen an uptick in.
Okay, that was the only question I had. But
Okay.
thank you for their work well done on the office side of it.
Yes, absolutely. I can't stress enough, the part about no adjusting journal entries. That should mean a lot to you guys. It means a lot to us. It means that your staff is doing a good job. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. We need to approve. You can motion to receive it. Motion to receive or approve.
Motion.
Vote by Mr. Fugely, second by Mr. Clay. All in favor? All right, next item of business. Consider and/or approve Head Start Policy Council recommendations.
So your regular meeting, we had, our minutes, our enrollment reports, and our director's reports. Those are all in your packet, that dealt with our enrollment increasing. And then we went over our performance profile scores that were released at the state. And that's all in your packet.
All right, do I vote to accept? Mr. Coche motion, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fugely. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. Item C, discuss and take action regarding superintendent's contract. Mr. Blanchard.
Okay, I've already spoken to most of you guys on the board, but it's my intention not to request a renewal of my contract, that I intend to retire on July 1st. I've been an assistant for 32 years, 24 of those years as an administrator, starting out as an assistant principal back in 2000, 1999. So I've had a good career. The board's been very good to me. I'd like to thank the board and the community for the support over the last few years, for the last 32 years. But I'm just ready to move on to maybe not greener pastures, but different pastures. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Well,
All right, we'll need to.
yeah, on the same token, the superintendent's fixed to leave, we will probably have to advertise at least for 2 weeks. And advertise locally and around the state and nationally. So I'll make more that we go ahead, but do that advertising, so the process is all in place.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Poche to begin advertising for superintendent,
Yes.
second by Mr. Clay. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
my intent was to recommend to the board that you'll hire somebody to help you conduct the search, and to conduct the advertisement. There are several people around the state that do that. Mr. Hammonds is one of them. He's conducted over 100 superintendent searches. And he will, him or another firm like him, they handle everything, posting the advertisement, collecting the applications, and helping the board to vet them, make sure they're properly certified and meet all your requirements. My recommendation or my suggestion to the board is that you do something like that. There's a little bit of a cost to it, a few $1,000s, but they make sure that you got all your I's across all your T's.
We have never did that in the past,
No, but it's just a suggestion.
but if you have such a fund, you know, then.
Want to amend your motion?
Because normally,
Yeah.
when you advertise, the application goes to the president submit a copy to the board, but how much does it cost?
We'd have to confirm with the,
I can ask him to come in, the February meeting is 3 weeks away. Yeah, he ought to do it for free, all the money. I can ask him, unless Mr. Boyer has a different suggestion, I can ask him to come to the
But our
February meeting.
attorney has some knowledge of, you did it already.
Yeah, I've done it multiple places.
I know, but I'm trying not to leave our attorney out, that's what I'm trying not.
Would you be qualified to do so?
Yeah, of course. We did it, yeah, I hate to throw the ball against it.
I say go ahead.
Trust him more than-
all right, you want to amend the motion
Yeah, amend the motion to get Mr. Harvest and Boyer.
to,
Go ahead and conduct the search.
conduct search for a superintendent?
Right.
All right, any more discussion? Let's vote on the amended version.
So if we can complain, we'll go to you.
Y'all
are just tired.
Motion passes.
It's all good.
Yes, sir. Item D, the pupil progression plan, we need to accept it.
Yeah, the state now requires us to have a promotion protocol for students who do not score what is considered a passing score on the LEAP test. So basically, we followed their recommendation where students that score below a certain thing have to attend summer remediation. It's all free of charge. We provide transportation and everything for those kids. And if they don't attend, you have to have like a backup plan of what do you do, how do you consider promotion? So we've included in there DIBEL scores and other things like that, so that schools can have SBLC committee meetings at the end of the summer and determine who they want to promote, who meets the state law. So basically, we're following the state's suggestions on what to do with that.
Okay.
So I'm recommending that it be approved.
All right, motion to approve. Mr. Stelling, second by Mr. Poche. Any discussion? Vote. Motion passes. Do we need to go into executive session?
Yeah, we need about 5 minutes.
Move to go into executive session.
Second. Thank you.
Come out of executive session.
We're now back in session. I need a recommendation, to accept staff's recommendation for employee
Motion.
A. Motion by Mr. Pucci, second by Mr. Eber. Any discussion? Let's vote. Passes.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, have a second? All in favor? Meeting adjourned.